Hello, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining from. I am back in Portland, back in the studio, recovering from the long week. So good to see everybody here. It was really great to meet some of you in person at NAB. That was a lot of fun. Glad you could all make it. And yeah, hopefully you had a good trip back home as well if you were traveling. So today, as always, we will talk about streaming gear and answer questions. If you do have a question, drop it in the chat with the letter Q in front, and then it makes it easier for me to find it on my screen. And otherwise, we're going to go through some of the clips that I recorded and talk about some of the new announcements from the various booths that I managed to visit and talk about what's new. So, also, I would love to know what you are all excited about from the announcements, because there was a lot, and I did not get to see it all. I got to see some of it and record some videos there, but did not make it to all the booths by any means. There was just a lot. But yeah, let me know what you're excited about. So, okay, where do we even start? Where do we start? I suppose we can start with the Blackmagic booth, because of course they dropped at the last minute some new announcements, and that was the new 4K. So this was the 4K ATEM Constellation, which is, as far as I can tell, the same as the HD version. It's just 4K. So everything, inputs and outputs are the same, the features are the same, but it is a 4K version. It works with the panel just like all the other ATEMs, of course. So that was great. It's good to see that. It's a little bit unusual that they didn't release a 2ME version, because this is a 4ME version. I have a feeling we will see that coming soon as well, but no way to know for sure. It just makes sense that they would also put out a 2ME version of it. And then of course, yes, IT Never Gets Old says Resolve 18.5 was a big deal. That was, I agree. So there's a lot of cool stuff from Resolve 18.5. I did not get a chance to explore yet. I did download it onto my laptop that I use for editing those videos. The one thing I did try in that so far is the text auto transcribing. Very cool feature. I don't have it on this machine, so I can't show you, but very cool feature where it transcribes the video. You get a little window of text, and then you can select ranges. You can use it as like a way to select video. So you can just be like, oh, I need to use this clip from, where they said this, and then select it, and then that selects the range in your video, and you can drag it onto your timeline. Very cool. Benny and Steve Show says, I have the extreme ISO. How do I record all the camera angles? So far, I get only the program angle. There's a setting for it. Let me drop into my software control to show you from, let's see, I have this ISO available. This is the 4 input, but it's the same on all of them. So if you go to output and then click over here on record, there's this checkbox, record in all cameras. And if that's not checked, it'll do just like the regular non-ISO version, it'll only record the program feed. So you have to make sure that, oh, sorry, not record in all cameras. ISO record all inputs. This is to trigger the cameras to record if you're using Blackmagic cameras. ISO record all inputs, this checkbox. If you don't check that, then it will not record the ISO feeds. If you do check it, then you get 4 ISO feeds and the program feed. That is the magic box. Graham says Resolve is too much for my poor old laptop. Looks like an expensive replacement is required. Oh no, darn. I was running mine's the M2 Air, and it seems to be fine on that. Yeah. Okay, good questions coming in. Good questions coming in. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about some of these questions before we go on to the other gear. Joe says, what was your favorite thing about NAB other than checking out of the hotel? Yeah, that was not my favorite hotel. Do not recommend. I was this close to just moving hotels mid-week and just giving up on that one completely. I think it was great to actually meet a lot of people. There was a lot of people there this year, especially compared to last year, and it was I had a blast saying hi to everybody. It seemed like there was a lot more activity at the booths and during in the in-between times. It was great to meet people because we can look at product specs all day online, but it's different when you're actually saying hi to people. Roxanne says, am I the only one who missed today's invite email? No. Okay, so I realized that at 9:30 before the start, I was like, I should have got my email reminder about the stream. I did the thing that I keep doing, which is I turn it off because I didn't want one to go out the other day, which was the packing one. Because it was like, no, what was it? It was one of the ones that I did recently that I was like, I don't want this email to go out. So I stopped the entire server and then forgot to turn it back on. So I need a better on-off button for that. Oh well. So now I turned it back on right before the show, and then 30 of them went out, but it was the old ones. So I need to go clean that up. Anyway, it'll be working again. Sorry, I broke my streak of reliability versus the YouTube notifications. Oh well. And if you are not aware, there is a link down at the bottom of this description box where you can sign up for email reminders about me going live. And they go out 30 minutes before the live stream is scheduled, most of the time. And apparently I broke it last week. So sorry, you also missed out on all the ones at NAB, which is a bummer because those are the ones that were unscheduled that would have been really good to have, or not unscheduled, but less scheduled in advance and not my normal time, which would have been very good to have email reminders of. Oh well. Oh well. Okay. Oh, Ronnie says, what kit did you bring to NAB? What was your experience with that equipment? What did work and what did not work as expected? Good question. Okay, let's go over this really quick because this is, man, so I don't have the heater turned on in here, but it's still extremely warm because I guess the weather is no longer freezing outside and all my gear is little mini heaters. But at least I don't have to have the heater on anymore. It's just already warm. Okay, so I made a little list. Of the gear I took with me, and I will show you this list. I dropped that in the chat as well. Let's go through and talk about what did work and what didn't work. So, okay, Insta360 Flow, the iPhone stabilizer. I didn't use it as much as I thought I would. But it was helpful when I did use it. And it was small enough that I didn't really mind. I actually brought a fanny pack because I realized I was going to be walking around with Joseph's backpack carrying the modem and stuff. And I didn't want to have to also have my own bag. So I had just, the waist strap bag. And it fit in there, which was nice. So I think that was a good thing to bring. But a lot of times I was at a booth and just used my phone without the stabilizer, and it was good enough. But most of the filming I was doing was on Joseph's camera anyway. I would probably bring that again next year. Sennheiser microphone with the transmitter. Excellent. So again, I had almost no time to use this myself because I was using for the main interviews, I was using Joseph's kit. So Photo Joseph brought, I guess we should talk about what he brought. I don't have it on this list. I'm trying to think of if I have it's probably on that QR code page. Let's see. The one that was on the backpacks. So this is the picture of it. He doesn't have a list of the gear. Okay, so Lumix camera, Atomos recorder, the cast transmitter, and then he has a different Sennheiser receiver and that plugs into XLR adapter for the Lumix camera. We did not use this microphone on the camera at all. It was completely useless. We're not going to bring that again. So this was the main thing I was filming with at the booths and and this was stuff that he brought. So from 11 to 4, we were running on the different booths around the show and filming with this, taking turns interviewing people at the booths and swapping out who was running the camera. This was all on a monopod, which you can't really see in that picture, but the monopod was had the little 3 legs at the bottom, so you could set it down, and it was mostly stable. It was great. Would not bring the built-in, the mounted microphone again. Just wireless would be good enough. And the trick here is this camera is shoots 6K open gate, which means it's like an unusual aspect ratio, and we were turning it so it was big enough that you can crop this way to get vertical for Instagram, or you could crop this way to get 16:9 4K still out of it, which is great. So all the stuff that you just saw a second ago from the booth, from the Blackmagic booth, that was my clips reframed, so cropped instead of the sensor like this, cropped like that to turn it into 16:9. Worked great. So we're gonna do this again next year, one way or another, and I'm just gonna plan on that next year, which means I'm gonna plan on most of the filming happening on some sort of similar rig to this. Maybe not the exact same thing. We may end up doing 2 of them next year. We'll see. It'll be something like this. So when I'm thinking about what else to bring, that's in the context of I will have this for interview shots for most of the day. So with that in mind, this microphone was my Sennheiser and my transmitter kit. I like this one a lot because it's so small. The receiver just has a 1/8 inch out that goes onto a camera. I wouldn't have needed this if I wasn't doing live streams. So the live streams I did from the booth, I used that microphone and it worked great. I never wandered very far away from the receiver, so I never had any like transmission problems, interference problems. And at the short distances of 6 feet or whatever, it was totally great. Definitely would bring that again. Okay, Insta360 1-inch. Better in low light than the other Insta360 camera. This is fun, a fun camera to bring, fun one to have. I wish I had shot more with it. I wouldn't use it for like interviews at the booth. It's not good for that. It's not nearly as good quality as like a real camera, but it's super fun for time lapses and stuff. I didn't use it as much as I had wanted to, because I guess there was just the schedule was just so packed. A lot of, like, when I was running around between 11 and 4 filming interviews, there was no downtime in the middle to do other filming. It was like booth to booth, no downtime. So it's only 4 to 6 at the end, and in the morning from 8 or 9 to 11, then I'd be able to use it. I need to go in with a better plan next year for filming things with it, because I did do a couple of walks through the hall, the expo hall, with it as like a time lapse. I haven't edited that yet, so that's going to go into like when I do an NAB video proper. The other problem was I twisted my ankle or my leg on the end of the first day, which means I was not as excited about walking around the booth or the expo hall unnecessarily the rest of the time. If I had not messed up my foot, I definitely would have done more morning walk around, exploring before we started filming. DJI microphone. I brought that with me. Did not use it at all. I think if I had, I was planning on using it when I was supposed to do the live stream with Frank from YOLO Live. Unfortunately, he slept past his alarm that morning because we were going to do it at 8 a.m. before the show even opened. Slept past his alarm, didn't make it out in time for that, so I just used the handheld mic for the stream because it was just me. That would have been a good use for that microphone. Other than that, I had no reason to bring it because interviews, again, were with Joseph's kit, and when I was doing my own live streams, I was on my own handheld. So yeah, we'll see if I bring it again next year. Sony ZV-1, I did bring it. I did use it a little bit. So some of the afternoons when I was filming not with Joseph, I did do some B-roll shots at the booths. I'm not sure how critical that was to have that camera versus just using my iPhone. So I don't think I'm going to bring it again next time because I don't, especially if I end up with, it probably depends on whether I end up with my own dedicated interview kit or not. Because if I do, it'll be a nice camera. I'll just use that camera for everything. But the iPhone it's so good. It's just right there all the time. Very little reason to use anything else, frankly. Insta360 Link. I brought that for the streaming kit. So I plugged into the Yolobox Mini, or the Yolobox, Mini when I did the stream. That worked very well. So that was during the stream, not the first day, but it was the second day when I did the stream in the evening, and you can watch the replay of that. Or no, that was in the morning stream. So it was this one, and this was a ZV-1 camera, but when I was, let's see, somewhere in here, I'm using the Insta360. This is the Insta360 because I swapped the HDMI for my little wireless receiver, which was cool. So, oh, there we go. That's the Insta360. You can see it panning now. The picture quality is good. So yeah, I don't know. I think that was a good call. I think it was, if I'm going to be doing a live stream with the Yolobox, I think it's useful. Lovely, lovely shot. Yolobox Mini, I think that was the right one to bring versus the Pro because with the Insta360 Link webcam, it looks pretty good on that. And then HDMI, the little wireless dongle actually worked okay. It was choppy just because it's not super powerful and it was in that, crowded room, but could plug in a computer instead, maybe next time, or my iPad or something. But even just the Yolobox Mini and a webcam is a pretty good live stream kit. I did not use this microphone at all. Did not need to bring it at all. And I actually used my smaller battery more than this one, and the smaller one just fit better in the bag. And battery was absolutely necessary because my phone did not last the whole day. Because essentially, once I left my hotel, I wasn't back there until like 10 or after. And I think that was about it. So didn't use as much of the stuff as I thought. And I think the answer, Doug was right when he was on my packing live stream last week. Bring less stuff. So yeah. Okay, let me take a look at the questions. Tom says, the Hollyland camera can connect to the April Fool's vertical ATEM. You can connect anything to the vertical ATEM because it doesn't exist. So you are only limited by your imagination. Yeah, how about disable once, switch to the reminder? I know, I need something like that. Which hotel was that to be able to avoid it in the future? It was called the Oyo Hotel. The reason I booked it was because it was relatively affordable. I booked it on points. It was a decent amount of points. It was across the street from the MGM, which has a monorail stop, and the monorail pass is very affordable and much nicer to get around than paying for taxis all the time. However, it turns out across the street from the MGM is like a 15-minute walk. By the time you get out of the monorail, and you have to go through the MGM underground area up, and then you can't even, like, it's literally across the street. You can see it, but you can't even get there. I have a picture of this just because it's so ridiculous. Definitely recommend staying in a hotel connected to a tram stop, not across the street from one. Avoid walking outside in general in Vegas is the answer. Oh, here it is. Okay. So let me airdrop this to my Mac. Come on. Oh, you know what was wild was there was so much interference in the expo hall that even airdrop wasn't working. I was trying to airdrop stuff to myself and it like just would fail. Like it's failing now for some reason. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So this This is the photo from the door of the Oyo Hotel, front door. That is the monorail stop. It's literally right there. That's the little station for it. So it's straight ahead, but you can't cross the street. You have to walk like an entire block down in either direction and then get to the crosswalk and then go back. Plus, you actually enter the MGM like over here, and then you have to wander through the basement in order to get up there. It takes forever. It's so ridiculous. But I guess that's why it was cheap. So lessons learned. Sennheiser mic was very selective, positive surprise to me. It was very good. Somebody asked about the interference of it. Where was that? Yeah, it is jam-packed with RF interference. It's wild. I don't know where it went. Somebody asked about interference from it. But no, I didn't get any interference from the Sennheiser. I was reasonably close to the receiver the whole time. I didn't walk very far away from it, so I think that is the trick. Both my handheld and Joseph's were totally fine. No complaints. Sean says, I stayed at the Sahara with the monorail station. It was so easy to access. Yeah, that's the way to go. The monorail is another topic on badly planned infrastructure. I mean, it works. It works. Fantastic says, I stayed at Westgate, but plan to stay at Resorts World Conrad next year. The Tesla loop makes it worth it. Oh yeah, interesting. I didn't do the Tesla loop this year. That is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. I did it last year just for fun. I wasn't like even trying to go anywhere. I just wanted to see what it was. The most ridiculous thing. Underground tunnel, 1 car wide, but the cars aren't even self-driving. There's a driver in them. So it's just a taxi with a dedicated tunnel, but that's what a train is, except trains can be automated. So why not just build a train? I don't understand. I don't understand. You can make, like, the monorail does not have drivers in the cars, and they come every 5 minutes. You pack a lot of people into them, and then you don't need anybody to operate the trains. It's great. Anyway, just put trains in that tunnel. It would be a better system. How many miles did I walk? A lot. Let's see what Fitbit says. Because, yeah. Again, I twisted my foot, though, so this says 8 miles on Sunday, 6 miles Monday, 6 miles Tuesday, 6 miles Wednesday, and then less than a mile on Thursday when I was home. Yeah. Let me tell you, it is not fun to walk 6 miles when you are hobbling with 1 foot. Ben says, I won the lottery on NAB rooms near top floor suite at the Westgate. Nice. I'm hoping I'm going to say the Westgate next year. We'll see. That seems like the way to go just because it's right there. Eric says, iPhone is definitely the camera you have, not the camera you wish you had, which makes it the best camera by definition. Yeah. Yeah. Even if the trains can't be automated, you can have so many more passengers than a repurposed passenger EV. I know, in the same amount of space that, like, that Tesla basically was taking 1 or 2 people at a time for that whole car, but a train car could be that big and hold like 6 people, even if it was just that big. The tunnels are too small for trains. Well, they're too small for like trains, but the monorail cars aren't huge. I'm sure you could come up with some train car that would fit in there. Okay, anyway, that's enough about trains. Oh, okay, good question. Ronnie says, what apps did I use the most on my phone? I don't know if I used any special apps. Instagram, because Instagram and TikTok, that's where I was posting the videos, although I wasn't posting most of them. We had somebody else doing that for the most part. I was checking up on them and editing and stuff. And then camera app and Foursquare, because I check in everywhere still. And that was it. I wasn't even checking Twitter. I wasn't... I didn't use any fancy apps at all. I guess the Insta360 app when I had when I was using that a couple times. Yeah, that's it. Didn't do any photo or video editing on the show floor. So yeah, nothing. Just a phone camera. Philip says, I think my record was 14 miles walking around in one day. That's a lot. That's a lot. iPhone memory issue for filming. I should probably have double checked how much free space I had before I left, but I didn't have any problems, luckily. Okay, getting, oh, there's the question about, do you have any dropouts from the Sennheiser, says Rich. So yeah, the XSW, I always forget which one's which. XSWD is the, that's the kit I have. So that's a little small pair of XLR transmitters and receivers. The this one, when I was using this one, I was always within about 3 to 4 feet of the receiver. So, and I had no trouble with that. Joseph's is the other Sennheiser, the one with the where the XLR receiver, it's like the little L-shaped L1. I don't remember the model number. XS, it's something. Let's see. Somebody will remember what this is called. It's not the XSW. AVX, that's the one. So quite a lot more expensive, but that's the one. Quite a lot more expensive, but it also is a microphone as opposed to mine, which clips onto the bottom of a microphone. I assume this has a better antenna because it's more expensive. And this one we were anywhere from 6 to sometimes 10 feet away, and definitely no problems. No problems. I don't actually know if this is the exact one, because now I'm realizing this is 1.9 gigahertz, and I don't know if that is the case, in which case that would explain one of the reasons it had no problems, because it's not even on the same frequency. I don't know if that's the exact one or if they have different frequency models, though. Yeah, AVX is the one. Rich says, thanks, I'm looking at the version with the jack on the receiver plugged into an A6400. I'm happy with it, honestly. I'm happy with it. I think there is going to be some limit to the range in that kind of environment, being 2.4 gigahertz, but at the distances I was at, which was, I could always basically reach the camera totally solid. Robert says, did you see any gear from tiny companies that looked interesting? Yeah. So there were a couple. So let's see. I've got some more clips to show here. So let's do that. I was going to save this to the end, but that's a good question. So after the stream on Wednesday morning, did the loop of filming stuff, and then it was a shorter day though, and then or no, sorry, didn't do filming with Joseph on Wednesday. The last day, it was a shorter day. Just wandered around the show floor, and I made a point to check out some of the stuff that I had not seen yet, including that video wall that was across from the Yolobox booth. So this was what I was looking at from the Yolobox booth. This was happening across from me. And this is a really cool system. So giant LED wall, as you can tell. They had a guy playing the guitar, but what's happening is the Unreal Engine, the system is tracking the camera movements. Why did it stop? I don't know why it stopped. Tracking the camera movements. So those little IR cameras are watching these little dots on the camera. So it knows where the camera is pointing, and then it adjusts the view of the background to match. One of the other wild things is also tracking the focus of the camera. And it's kind of hard to tell, but let's see. I think it's right. Oops. I think it's right in oops. It's in, there we go. So here, see how the background is blurry? That's not my phone. That's not my camera out of focus. It's actually blurred. So yeah, see how the text of that screen is in focus, but the picture is blurred? That's because the system is actually blurring it in order to give a fake depth of field. And as the camera is focusing on like different things, it'll like adjust what picture is being generated to match the focus. It's really cool. And let's see, did I have a clip? Yeah, so that's what it ends up looking like. The music doesn't do well when I am also scrubbing back and forth. But yeah, you can see the Yolobox booth reflecting in the guitar. But that background's all fake and it's just like moving around. It's really cool. So this is a cool system. It's kind of expensive still, but I think it would be affordable to some studios. I also can't figure out what it's actually called because now when I went to go look up the links for this, as far as I can tell, Pixreal makes the panels themselves. I don't know if this is like a prototype of what they're building for the tracking system or if it's some other company. So they didn't do a good enough job branding that because I couldn't find any information about this tracking system on their website when I went to go look. Oh, there we go. Morgan has the info on it. Is that the, or no, that's a different system. 5K for 3 cameras for tracking. Okay, that's not bad. Yeah. You track 6 studio cameras and tie it into Unreal. It's really cool. Yeah, this one. So the system is these cameras get placed around your talent to track whatever cameras, and I think they do support tracking more than one. They just only have one camera set up, but you need these little dots on the camera, and it's also got an accelerometer in there too. They actually show me what it looks like when it's using only the accelerometer data, and it's still pretty good tracking, but the little tracking dots make it work even better. And then, the other thing about this was that suit, that bodysuit in the back, that is also a tracking bodysuit. So this is the person dancing in the background. That was all motion capture from that suit and then reanimated in Unreal Engine, which is, again, super cool. So, yeah, really that cool system, kind of expensive. So then I went to Joe says, is this a different booth than the Axibo we were discussing? It is. So that's a different booth. I did go visit them. They were all the way in the back of the room, way behind everything else. Didn't even see them until Joe mentioned this to me. So they had some really cool stuff too. Their stuff is, they did not have an LED wall up. They had just a giant TV they were using. And they have a motion control system. So starting with just a slider. So the slider, oops. I always forget how to cue up the video. The slider was doing this, back and forth and turning the camera, and I was trying to follow the camera in order to, and then it was again adjusting the picture in the background. This is the actual recording from the camera. I stuck my SD card into the Blackmagic camera to get a clip of what it was recording. And it's really good. It's really cool. So this kit is much more affordable. This one, now I forgot the price. I should have written it down. It was something like just a couple thousand for the slider and their software and stuff. So very cool. They also had a much fancier, huge jib that was doing robot dances while it was there, which you could pair with this as well. But this, I feel like, is much more accessible to smaller places, smaller studios. So very cool stuff. They worked on the Marble Orbiter. Oh, that's cool. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, Nil says, too bad gyro data from the camera isn't accurate enough for tracking. It was okay. It was definitely better with the dots tracking, but it worked okay. Like he showed like covering up the dots so the cameras can't see it and then moving the camera around, and it worked okay. Yeah. Very cool stuff though. Very cool stuff. Okay, couple of questions coming on. Greg says, did you feel safe walking around with all the gear? I mean, in the expo hall, yes. And then I never actually carried like all of my gear except when I was going to and from the hotel. But it wasn't that much stuff. I don't know. It didn't even look that bulky. Like all the little bits I brought myself, they all fit into my little sling bag. Michael says, will OBSBot HDMI camera give a better close-up shot 30 feet away than the Sony ZV-1? Probably not. But let's take a look at the OBSBot because I have some clips from there. That was their new Tail Air camera. So this one's the little webcam, new OBSBot webcam USB. But the Tail Air is this HDMI auto tracking, which is very cool. So it also does the gesture control for zoom in, but they also have this remote for it. So you can actually manually control the PTZ with the remote. They also have a bunch of accessories that are coming out for it. So they have a monitor that remote clips onto with a 4G card. The monitor can pair to multiple of the cameras. They're adding NDI support and Visca for the PTZ control. They have a little base station for rotating the camera. Charging hub for that, I guess. But yeah, a little smart remote monitor and remote controller. The remote controller pops off and you can use it just handheld or use it attached to the monitor. Cool stuff. A lot of cool stuff there. And I am excited for the HDMI version of the camera because then, yeah, the can actually finally integrate it with better video switchers. I do think though that I don't think its zoom is going to be better than the ZV-1's zoom lens though. The main enemy while on the convention floor is simply human exhaustion. Yes, exactly. Dartroom says, did you check out the Hollyland streaming camera? I did. Okay, so here is some clips from the Hollyland. At the Hollyland booth, they had all their stuff out, of course, most of which I was already familiar with, you know, their wireless transmitters. I've never actually played with their comms, but they had those out too. They have the new wireless monitor receiver, but these cameras were totally not unexpected. Also, I'm glad they have one in white. I hope I can get one in white. Interesting cameras. So a couple different output options. It has a LAN, it has HDMI, and decent lens, but then also this giant screen on top. So you flip it out and it's very large. It's very large, but it's also like kind of a smartphone. It's running Android and you can like log into your accounts on it, and you can stream directly from it to Facebook. So here's me trying to show you. Okay, you open YouTube, login. It opens up a little browser, and you can also they also made an interface for adding custom streaming endpoints, so you can do a RTMP direct. So that's interesting. Very interesting. And this was not the only like single camera RTMP streaming option there. PTZOptics had another one. I do think they missed out on a couple of things that they should have added to it. One was it should have a built-in Hollyland transmitter that can pair with any of their receivers. Because if you're going to use it with, if you don't want to use just the streaming feature built in, it would make a good camera that could pair directly to their little receivers. But now you have to attach the receiver or the transmitter separately, which is silly. So I feel like they messed that up. Eric says, I guess one could also go straight to TikTok with Android. I didn't see the TikTok. It's not running apps. It just happens to use the Android operating system under the hood, but it doesn't like have a launcher screen. Theoretically, they could add that, kind of like the InStream does, but that's not how it works right now. They should have made it a transmitter that compare with any existing receivers, or they could have also done something that let you connect multiple cameras somehow. So imagine that like you could buy 2 of those cameras and then pair them somehow. Maybe there's a receiver built into one of them and a transmitter in the other, and then switch cameras on one of the cameras, right? 2-angle live stream. I told them all this, so hopefully they take it into consideration, because it seems like not a large use case for going live directly from one camera without being able to do anything else with it, right? Like, I want to be able to at least do something else besides just a camera going live. Graphics, or a title screen, or multiple cameras, or something. So yeah, I'm not quite sold on that, but it is an interesting product. And the fact that they're able to, or willing to, go into that world suggests that they might actually have some interesting plans in the future. Tech Honda says, I was really impressed by the BirdDog X120 Wi-Fi camera. Did you see that too? I did not see that. I don't actually think I went to the BirdDog booth at all. That was a mistake. Oops. It's so hard to see everything there. There's just so much stuff. Joe says, gear manufacturers, how do we get Aaron to buy our gear? We'll make it in white. Yes, exactly. I suppose on the virtual set stuff, in terms of cost, if you have to ask, you can't afford it. Yeah, except the Axibo stuff. Yeah, I agree. You can use a cheap 65-inch TV as the background for at least product shots. Should I get a 65-inch TV to put on this wall? Start doing some virtual productions in here. Alonso says, did you manage to finally convince Frank to change AFV settings for good on the Yolos? I had a lot of conversations with him. I'm going to have to send him more notes. But I did get him to film one of my frustrations with the Yolobox, which is demonstrating why I really want to be able to control it from external things, like with external buttons. Because the process of actually starting a live stream with the count, you have the countdown going, but you want it on top of like a graphic, not your camera. And then when you go live, you have to turn on the audio and remove the graphic. And those are on 2 different pages. So you can't do them both at the same time. And I had him film me with his phone doing this and explaining what was going on as I was going live to share with the rest of the team. So hopefully they will take that into consideration. Yeah. Okay, speaking of PTZ cameras, what's the best streaming camera at NAB, PTZ or not? So the Hollyland camera was interesting. It does have HDMI out in case you want to use it as like a normal camera. The other one that I looked at, which I guess kind of similar, is the PTZOptics. So at their booth, they had a bunch of stuff, obviously, but I was focusing on this camera, their little creator camera. And it's, you know, similar form factor to the Hollyland. There's no screen, but it is NDI out, already enabled on it, and it does have HDMI and Ethernet. This is the little focus thingy, but then they also have a physical switch that turns it into vertical mode. Interesting little switch there. So could be interesting. This one can go live directly again, or pull a feed off of NDI. So it could be interesting for something. We'll see if I can maybe get some of these in to try out, to test out in here a little better. But I guess what I like about those is that, frankly, similar to camcorders, there's like less stuff you have to worry about compared to a mirrorless camera, because they don't do photos, they don't have a lot of other settings, so they're just a lot easier to set up and use. But yeah, what's the, I guess best streaming camera is, depends on what you're actually trying to do with the camera, because if you want to go live directly from a camera, there are some that are better than others for that. But feeding a camera into a computer, you know, that would that's also a different kind of streaming camera, right? Okay, Magewell. Bert asks about the Magewell. I have that one in here somewhere. The Magewell booth. So this thing, I actually got a sneak peek of it last year before it was out, and now it's available. So at the Magewell booth, I was looking at the USB Fusion. So couple HDMI ins, also webcam in, Ethernet jack, USB, and then there's buttons on the front to switch. But most of the features are accessible through their iPad app. So you can like draw on the screen. This will stream and record and also gives you HDMI out, so you can feed a projector if you want. You can create layouts of multiple cameras. So it does a lot of different things. Does it work like the ATEM? No, I don't think so. I would not say that. It's the only thing that's similar to the ATEM is, I guess, that it has like multiple inputs and it's a switcher, but it's you really do control it from the iPad app. But it's hard to describe, and I need to take a closer look at it to give a better description, because it can do a lot of things, and it can do a lot of things that I haven't seen a lot of other devices do. It's not really a video switcher. It's like designed for meeting rooms and presentations, but it's not necessarily designed to be used for like a one-person live stream like this, or even filming like at a venue. It is really like a presentation device. So really interesting, but I need to do some more experiments with it in order to figure out who it's best for. Graham says we have a PTZOptics camera, but I don't think that the color balance is very nice. Oh, darn. Ooh, Dartroom says, any new technology for video replay on the fly? That's a good question. I didn't see anything, but I have a feeling that may have been in a different room, because that's a lot more broadcasty. There's like multiple huge rooms, expo halls at NAB, and I spent most of the time in Central Hall with just a quick little excursion to the North Hall where Blackmagic is. And the broadcast world is in, I think, mostly in the North Hall also, and I didn't spend much time there. I didn't see anything in the Central Hall, but again, I did not make it to all the booths at all. Roxanne says, OBSBot 4K was quite disappointing in terms of video quality, not much difference to the smaller or older one. I thought it was a little better, but it was hard to tell on the show floor again. Philip says, are you tempted by the new 4ME Constellation in 4K? I mean, yes, but I don't want to spend that much money. And also, I don't really want to also have to spend all the money to upgrade everything else to 4K. So, like, I would need a bunch of new converters and probably some new cables. I'm sure some of these cables are not ready for 12G. New monitors, all sorts of new things. So, I don't think I'm going to switch. I think 1080 is fine. The only reason I'm even tempted by it is not to stream in 4K, because I still don't think anybody needs to watch a live stream in 4K, but it's to be able to record in 4K with the multicam workflow. So record 4K, because 4K videos that I upload would be nice, or at least being able to crop out 1080 from different parts. But yeah. Oh, Sean says, I was able to talk to somebody at Blackmagic about the Stinger on the Extreme. He said the button should never have been put there. It will never work. Oh no. Good tip. I also didn't spend nearly as much time in the Blackmagic booth as I had as I wanted. Man, I really just it turns out filming that much content and getting it out was a lot of work. Did not leave a lot of time left. Also didn't help that I couldn't walk right. So frustrating. Saul says, I have 4, I'm assuming you mean PTZOptics cameras. They work very well, no complaints. Well, that's good. That's good. Okay, let's talk about Epiphan. Rogers Outdoor says, it seems that Epiphan is making the most progress with remote broadcasting. They're making me rethink my remote broadcasting solution. What are your thoughts on their system? I am extremely excited about what they launched. Oh, I don't have... I thought I did. Oh, I didn't make one, apparently. Didn't make a little B-roll clip of it. The Epiphan booth, though. So Epiphan, they had this new announcement with Zoom. A couple other companies did also, but Zoom essentially made it so that anybody can integrate their SDK and get ISO video feeds out of Zoom now. So any product can do this. So if you have if there's like a live streaming platform that you really like using, go ask them to go build Zoom support, because they can now. It's all there. Like the tools are there. So I did a live stream from the Epiphan booth, with their gear they had there. So this was a tiny little booth in the corner. And they had 2 cameras. The color balance on this wasn't, or maybe it's just the lighting in the room. Not my favorite colors, but the stream worked great. They had the actual internet connection they bought, and then everything was all wired in. But at some point in here, we had the remote producer join. Let's see, here he is. And he's actually joining from Teams, but it works the same way on Zoom. So, darn, I swear I made a little B-roll segment of this. I must have just forgot to load it onto my iPad. Darn, okay. Oh well. So the 2 of us are there in person, coming out of HDMI, going into their cloud switcher. The guy in the middle, the remote producer, is joining from a Teams meeting that we were talking to him on. That's why we're wearing headphones. And his video feed was coming in remotely, and you can't even tell. It's great. Same thing works with Zoom. I don't have the video clip here because this was just an interview, but I have clips that I forgot to apparently put onto my iPad, which is, let's see if I just have one on my phone. No, I think I did them on my camera too, so I don't even have them here. But basically extracting participants out of a Zoom feed as SRT. So their new solution, let's see if they have a web page, Epiphan Connect for Zoom. So this gives you there's a little animation of it. Start a Zoom meeting, capture sources, create your layout, share. The way it works, though, is that every Zoom participant, I don't know if they have any pictures of their interface here. but every Zoom participant ends up as an SRT feed, which means you can do whatever you want with it. So for their demo, of course, they're pulling it into their Epiphan cloud switcher or a Pearl or something, but you can just pull the SRT feed out into a physical, like a Magewell device if you want. So I'm going to try that as soon as I get a hold of this and get it set up. Pulling Zoom guests into the actual hardware that shows up in my switcher. Be very cool. I think they are, I think they're on a roll. When the Epiphan stream started, I was unsure if you were in the same room as the host. The camera angles and the tempo of the conversation made it look more like remote. That's funny. I wonder why. Maybe it's because we had the remote producer there. So because we were listening to him in our ear. Interesting. We were staring at each other though. Oh, he was supposed to send me that photo he took of the booth because he snapped a little photo to show like how tiny that little set was. ISO with ISO audio. I believe so. Because that's how they mixed the whole show. More Zoom ISO than you could ever want use in a lifetime. Yeah. Neil says lots of competition on the lower end of the budget for Blackmagic switchers. Yeah, there were a lot of companies with small switchers now. One of them had a really good conversation with the CTO of one of them, OC, and hopefully that is the name. Yeah. Hopefully they take some of my suggestions for some interesting new devices. I'm trying to find, they have a bunch of different stuff. I don't think they have, the switcher they had there was still a prototype, so I don't think it's available on the website yet. Yeah. But they have interesting stuff. Do you think the ATEM Mini will happen with NDI outputs? No chance. Would not hold my breath. You'll be holding your breath for a long time. I don't think any Blackmagic gear will ever support NDI. They're basically competitors. So, yeah, no. Especially now that they announced the new IP 2110 network video. So that's how they're going to get into the network IP video space. I prefer Blackmagic, but I'm in love with the Yolobox Pro. The Yolobox Pro is great. You can do a lot of stuff with it, for sure. Dartroom says, how do you compare TriCaster Studio to the ATEM Mini? I would say the TriCaster is more like more equivalent to any of the software that you would run on a computer, like software switchers like vMix or Ecamm. It's just that they sell it to you with a computer, but it is a computer-based, Windows-based application, and they just sell you the computer with the capture cards they've already figured out work well for it. So it's like you want a good out of the box. You want to buy a computer-based streaming solution and don't want to have to deal with putting together a computer yourself, which is fair. That's what it is. To do what the TriCaster can do with ATEM stuff, you do have to buy a lot of parts, a lot of pieces, and even then, you'll need a computer for graphics stuff because there's no graphics generators in the Blackmagic world. So people like the TriCaster just because it's so like it's an all-in-one. It does everything in one box. I'm not a big fan. I don't want to run a production on a Windows machine. That's just me. Sean says, I'm interested in how the Yolobox Pro will integrate with the OBSBot Tail Air and how controllable it is from the Yolobox. Is there likely to be any more hardware coming from Yolobox soon? Two different questions. So the Tail Air has that remote control. So you can, at the very least, control the PTZ manually with that remote control with a little joystick, which is very cool. And that remote control can control up to 3. There's little number buttons on the remote to change which camera you're controlling. So at the very least, you get actually controllable PTZ HDMI camera now with that. I don't know if there's going to be actually any integration with the Yolobox itself, as in terms of like, will the Yolobox be able to control the PTZ? Don't know if that would ever happen. But with the Tail Air, at least you do get that remote control, handheld remote to be able to use with it, which is very cool. Okay, questions about the RØDECaster. So let's look at the RØDECaster, because I do have these. So the RØDECaster Duo. RØDECaster Duo is their new... the RØDECaster Duo is the 2-channel mixer that is almost exactly the same as the RØDECaster Pro. It's just 2 channels instead. So 2 headphones, 2 mics. It has more channels internally, but it's just 2 XLRs. So they also moved the one of the headphone jacks to the front, but it's also for a headset, so you can plug in a microphone on that front, and then you can. So here's all the ports. Yeah, 2 USBs. I still don't know what the Ethernet's for. But one of the really cool things they did in the Duo and in the Pro as a firmware update, and in the StreamerX, is there is a built-in receiver for the Rode Wireless Go in it. 2-channel receiver. So you can pair, you can take your, and this goes for the RØDECaster Pro. So if you have a RØDECaster Pro and you have a Rode Wireless Go 2, you can pair your 2 transmitters directly into the RØDECaster Pro. Super cool. No more little receiver hanging off the end. This is what Hollyland should do with their cameras, right? So it's a 2-channel wireless receiver. Same is true with the RØDECaster Duo, and the same is true with the StreamerX. The StreamerX is their smaller, it's a combo device, so it's 1 XLR input and HDMI in and HDMI pass through. So it takes 4K in, it can pass through 4K 60, plug this into a computer, and it's a capture card. So you get a nice big video mute button too, which is nice. And this, I think, is a pretty cool combination of features. So being able to use a good camera, HDMI camera, with a good microphone, without all the fuss of an ATEM, and just for your meetings. Plug it into Zoom, and now you've got a great capture card for Zoom, with a nice big physical video off button, which is kind of cool. And I could think of a couple different things you could do with this that are interesting, especially with that HDMI out. So for example, you could take your desk camera, plug it into this, feeding your computer, but then send an output into a video switcher. That way you can still do like a multi-camera recording, or how I have the my wish list for this presentation switcher, which I shared with a lot of companies over the week. I'll drop this link in really quick. So this still does not exist. What I want to be able to do is have a 2-input camera and computer, be able to make a layout where you can also change the layout like this, and then switch to a still frame. And still, nobody has made this device. The closest, one of the reasons I want this is because if you're feeding, and the output is important. So if you're feeding Zoom with your ATEM and you want to make this layout, then Zoom gets this layout, which is not what you want to send to your Zoom meeting. You want to send just your camera. So you basically need a camera that's a pass-through to be able to feed Zoom a clean copy of the camera, but then record this layout. So, yeah, this little diagram shows how this would work. 2 inputs. One of the outputs is just a pass-through of the input. This is also a pass-through of the computer input, so you can feed a projector with it. And then this HDMI is switchable for recording, or and then USB-C can also switch between the recording, like you're recording your layout for streaming into some streaming platform, or just a clean copy of your camera. So I shared this with a bunch of people. Maybe it'll exist. I added more information about the target market down here as well. So anybody wants to build this, please do. Please do. But the RØDECaster, no, Rode StreamerX is a pretty good, Rode StreamerX plus ATEM Mini Extreme would be a pretty good kit that would let you do that. So Extreme is what gives you the super source layout. The RØDECaster X is what gives you the camera with a pass-through HDMI. So, so it's like the ATEM Nano that still does not exist. Almost. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, the Rode stuff. StreamerX, one camera capture card with pass-through, one microphone in. I do think it's going to be useful. Good to see that. Also, wireless receiver built in. Very cool. And I think the RØDECaster Pro or RØDECaster Duo is a good move too, because you don't often, sometimes you just don't need all 4 XLR mics, and that thing is huge. The Duo is physically smaller in all the dimensions. So keep an eye out for some PK1 products that might happen to work well with the Rode devices, because I am pretty excited about the Rode stuff, and we might start working on that soon. Okay, other questions. Oh, God. Okay, more questions coming in. Short bus. I started a podcast with a friend of mine, and we're looking for better cameras. Someone made a recommendation of using a camcorder instead of a camera. What are your thoughts on that, using a mini ISO? I think it can work well. So the I'm about to sneeze. Sorry. The thing with camcorders, one of the nice things is that there's less, they're made to be on all the time. You don't have to worry about overheating. They can be powered continuously because that's just kind of how they're expected to be used. There's often fewer settings because they're not going to have photo modes. So you don't have to worry about, they're just easier to use for that. Quality-wise, you can get cheap camcorders that won't look good. Let's just say that. So if you are trying to improve the video quality, you can get a camcorder that's going to do that. You just have to be willing to spend some money on it. So you're not going to be able to find necessarily a cheaper way to get better video quality by going with the camcorder route, but there might be other benefits to doing a camcorder anyway. So, I do think that the cameras I'm using for the video podcast, which is, we just crossed 400 subscribers, so you should subscribe if you're not already. This is the House Files podcast. New episode came out yesterday. The cameras that we're using for this are my Lumix G7s. And the lenses on these are, one of them is the kit lens. One of them is a 25mm, which is like $150. And the other one is, I think it's a 45. It's like one of the cheap 45mm ones. I think this looks better than what you would get from a similarly priced camcorder. So all in all, this would be like, you can find these cameras used, or the G100s, for like $500 or $400 sometimes. Some of them I bought for $300 even. And the lenses are not super expensive. So I think this looks better than what you would get from a camcorder that costs $600. Can you get a better picture than this from a camcorder? Absolutely. You may have to spend over $1,000 though. So, but again, there are benefits to camcorders like usability. Okay, that was a long tangent. Let me catch up on the chat here. Wow. Okay. Hopefully that is gets you going in the right direction though for the video podcast. I don't see any follow-up comments on that. Okay. Do you think there'll be an ATEM Extreme 4K one day? What about 4K ISO recording? I don't think we're going to see 4K ISO recording for a very long time. They were talking about that at the booth. There's just a lot of processing to do that, and a lot of heat gets generated and has to get moved somewhere. I don't think we're going to see 4K ISO. It's certainly not in an Extreme box. I don't think we're going to see a 4K Extreme in that shape either. I think that's probably 4K is probably reserved for the one they just launched, which is the this one. So it's the 4K version of the HD8. So 8 input, but notice that they did make an ISO version of the HD. They did not make an ISO version of the 4K. Just because it's too much data. So I don't think we're going to see a 4K in this form factor at all. I would not count on that at this point. Again, wild guesses though. So Peter says, great camcorder summary, 100% agree. Excellent. I haven't bought a camcorder in a while, so I'm a little bit out of date on that. But the ones I was buying were $600. The Canon G20. They were okay. SS says, do you see Yolobox Pro having 100 megabit Ethernet being a limitation for any native NDI integration? Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah, possibly, because NDI really does like the bandwidth. But the NDI HX stuff is a lot more compressed and still good quality. So they could at least do stuff with that, I think. In the past stream, Frank answered a question about the Streambox. Why would they create their own Streambox product and not leverage companion to Stream Deck? I agree. You should all tell him that. Go onto their Facebook group, send emails, and just ask for companion integration. Don't even ask for a Stream Deck integration, because I don't think they understand the power of the just building an API, which is all that they need to do. I'm going to write this up again for them, but I don't think that's clicked in their heads yet, because at one point I was talking with Frank about I want to use a Stream Deck with the Yolobox, and he was like, okay, well, I talked to the engineers and they don't want to add, they don't think that they can add support for a Stream Deck because of having to go through Elgato to get access to the box and the APIs and stuff. And I was like, that's not what I mean. Like, everybody uses Companion as this middle layer to glue controllers like the Stream Deck to their gear. And all you have to do is add in an API that controls the Yolobox. I would recommend doing it over OSC so that anybody can just plug in anything that speaks OSC. So all they need to do is expose an OSC API for various actions on the Yolobox, and then someone else can write the companion integration. Everybody please keep telling them this. They need to hear it from a lot of people who, because they do listen to customers, and they do sometimes listen to me, but if they don't hear enough support from customers, they're not going to necessarily add a feature. So I absolutely think they would be better off building an API instead of building a dedicated controller. So yeah, even if it had OSC at the minimum, even if it's not companion native, you need to perform sequential coordinated multi-step automation. Exactly. So Rich says, I know the OBSBot Tail Air has no release date yet, but from what you saw, would this be a good option to auto-track a presenter on stage from the back of the room? I don't think so. I think it wants to track things that are closer than that. I don't know how well it would work from that distance. 20 meters. That's too big to even test in here. That's a good question. I don't think it's not going to, well, I mean, also, it's not going to give you that close up of a picture, right? Because like at 20 meters, it's going to be a pretty wide shot. So I don't even know if you need to track the presenter. I don't think you're going to be able to zoom in close enough to need to track them. If you stick it at the front of a stage, I think it would track very well the person walking across the stage. Another Yolobox Pro suggestion. Yolobox Pro should provide local guest invite leveraging email. Generated QR code to link the web service on Yolobox to connect. No internet needed. Interesting. Yeah, interesting. I'll think about that. Did I look at the new roll-in video switchers? I didn't make it to the roll-in booth either. Bad me. TechCondo says, completely off topic, the audio levels of your X32 is following your speech, but the ATEM seems to smooth out the audio more. What do you mean the ATEM seems to smooth out the audio more? How can you tell? On this stream, or do you mean in past streams? Renee says, not NAB related. Will 2 Blackmagic microconverters, bidirectional... Okay, bidirectional converters. A use case for cross connections between 2 cameras and 2 monitors. Cam 1 monitor from 2 and vice versa. Return feed. Oh my god, I can't quite put this all together. The bidirectional converter. I think that works. So you want to use a camera into one and then feed the output into a monitor and then the other way. Yeah, I think the bidirectional converter is just remember that like it's either going to be in mirror mode or cross mode, depending on what you've plugged into it. So, and the bidirectional will do both conversions at the same time. So HDMI to SDI and SDI to HDMI at the same time. IT Never Gets Old says, is all the Zoom API stuff a result of the Liminal acquisition? Yeah, it's that team working on this stuff for sure. Can I connect an ATEM Mini Pro on HyperDeck? ATEM Mini Pro, HyperDeck with Ethernet cable for program out from ATEM Mini Pro. Same as support of streaming bridge or any new thing to get program output. No, the HyperDeck does not accept video over the Ethernet. That is just for controlling it. So, wait a second. The new... So, it's actually more confusing. Probably not. But on some of the new ATEMs and the new HyperDecks, there's a thing where you can record. You can use the HyperDeck can record to a network drive. So it's not recording to the HyperDeck, but the HyperDeck does the encoding. And instead of storing it on a SD card, it can store it on a network storage. So you can use like their new cloud pod and things like that. So it's not quite what you're saying here, but that would let you still need HDMI into the HyperDeck. You can't do it from the streaming output of the ATEM. Although if you have the new ATEM HD8 ISO, this one has streaming bridges built into the inputs and can record internally. So you could stream from an ATEM Mini to this thing and record it over the network, which is weird. Yeah. Gotta say, I love the shorts format for covering all the NAB news. Good, I'm glad. It was a lot of work. It was way more work than I thought. Even though we outsourced most of the work. You'd think filming a 90-second video would not take very long. Turns out it does. So what we would do would be walk up to a booth, introduce ourselves. Joseph and I were there together. You know, we walk up, introduce ourselves, introduce the project of, hey, we're going to film a little segment here and then post it on Instagram, and then talk to the person at the booth to get a quick description about, you know, what's new, figure out what we want to focus on. So for like the PTZOptics booth, for example, it would take more than 90 seconds to cover everything at the booth. And I was like, I want to focus on that camera. Get the rundown from them, and then say, okay, now we're going to do the interview. Try to keep it focused and keep it on topic and short. Some of them wanted to ramble a lot. And then all that footage gets recorded onto that Atomos device, but gets uploaded in real time to Frame.io. And then I would go into my phone, move the footage into the right folder, send off a note to the editor saying, we're done at this booth, start editing that. We had a remote editor working on that, and they would stitch it together into a short video, put it back in Frame.io, review it, and then we had somebody else who would then go post it. So the trick was, by the time you get to the booth, introduce the project, film the interview, film the B-roll, and start walking on the next booth, it's like it was a half hour every time, like without exception. So it was the 30 minutes per booth, which basically meant between 11 and 4, that's 5 hours. And assuming that we were starting exactly on time, which usually not, most we'd be able to get done is 10. And that's between both of us. So it's 5 each. On the first day, we only did 8. On the second day, I think we did do like 12. I think we had, I'd done some prep work ahead of time in the morning before we started, which was absolutely worth it. Gonna do that again next year. So I would scout the booths ahead of time in the morning before 11 when Joseph was busy talking at the events that he was doing. And I would go to the booth, introduce the project, say, hey, we're gonna come back this afternoon to film. So then when I came back, they already knew about what was going on. It was faster to film. So gonna do that again next year. That was a good move. Also gave me more time to think about what I was going to say about the product or whatever. It was fun. It was fun, but man, a lot of work. So, and that was even with, I was not editing and I was not even posting it on Instagram. Somebody else was logged into a phone with my account posting it on Instagram. And, but got it most of them turned around the same day. I would like to be able to just scale it up a little bit more. And one of the ways might be to, instead of Joseph and I swapping between the camera person and the on-screen talent, having 2 more people with us just running the cameras. That way, for the 5 hours, I could film 10 instead of me only getting 5 out of it. Joseph, did you think about having an extra person as a scout advanced person? Yeah, so Joseph and I met up after this and like brain dumped a whole page of notes about things that worked and what we would do differently next time. We have so many ideas. Most of the ideas involve adding more people in various roles. So didn't have the budget for that this time. Didn't know if the project was going to work. Didn't know if it was going to be successful at all. Didn't know if the sponsor was going to be happy. Atomos was sponsoring it. So, they were paying, because of their sponsorship, they were able to pay everybody involved, the 4 of us. If we do this at a bigger scale, it's going to require 2 people more, possibly 3 more people. So the good news is a lot of other brands were interested, and we may be able to have it sponsored by multiple brands next year, in which case there will be more of a budget. So we will see. I think, yeah, I would love to have someone, a scout, essentially like producer, basically is what that role would be, of introducing themselves at the booth. Maybe even if they're actually in the industry, keeping an eye out for like what things that they think might be interesting to the audience. And then, setting up the meetings, not really a meeting, but like saying, we're gonna come back in the afternoon with a camera, and then we can be faster in and out then. And if we had 2 dedicated camera people, then both of us can get twice as much content out, which would also be cool. So, Eric says the YouTube shorts have been valuable. You covered some booths nobody else would mention. Yeah, I think so. Spence says I watched maybe 1 short vertical video. It's just not speaking to me. Well, I will post longer reframed. I'm probably not going to post short horizontal, but I am going to use all that footage and probably use some of the interviews, and definitely all the B-roll, and do like a recap video. Rich says, thanks, Aaron. Assuming the tail Air has the same lens as the current tail, then a 21-74 equivalent focal length is indeed not long enough. Good suggestion, putting it in the front. Yeah, I don't think the zoom is going to be big enough for that far back. Curious if the Rode StreamerX capture card has an 8-bit or 10-bit color space for chroma keying. Ooh, it's an interesting one. I don't know. Is it on their website yet? Let's find out. It is on their website. They do mention that it is 4K 30 input and 4K 60 pass-through. But do they mention color space? It's not, I don't see an actual product page for this yet. So maybe not. Yeah, it's not actually up on the site officially yet. Don't know. We'll find out. Did you see the ATEM competition by Roland? No, I didn't make it to the Roland booth. I should have done that. It's so hard to visit all the booths. Okay. Did I make it through all the questions? Let's see if I skipped any. Oh, I wonder if on the Rode StreamerX, if you can choose the audio that gets sent to the HDMI output. I don't know. One of the weird things is that has to be configured in the computer and not on the, there's no touchscreen for it. I asked the question on B&H Photo and there's no info yet. Okay. Yep. Okay. What else do I have here? Talk about the Hollyland. Anything catch my eye? I think the virtual set stuff caught my eye because it's very flashy, but also that it does seem like the technology is a lot more accessible now, especially with some of the cheaper kits. So that's cool. But other than that, like, I think the Rode stuff might be the most exciting. I think it would be, I think the Rode stuff is going to be really useful for a lot of people. The new audio devices and the capture card. Everything else was like, there's a lot of good stuff. Nothing else like blew me away. You think the new Blackmagic 4K Constellation is too expensive considering that it's not cheaper than the 8K? It is cheaper than the 8K, but that's because they raised the price of the 8K. It is 4K is $9,000 and the 8K is now $11,000. This was $10,000, like $9,995, so would have been $1,000 cheaper, but they upped the price of this a couple of years ago. Is it expensive? Yes, it is. But it's also ridiculously powerful. So yeah, we'll see. Joe says, do you think about driving a scooter for seniors next year? It works even with your ankle. Oh, believe me. As soon as I twisted my foot, I was looking around at all the people driving the little scooters being like, how do I get one of those? Probably very expensive is the answer. It's probably very expensive. The, oh yeah, little Saramonic microphone. That thing was cool. This one wasn't able to take it with me, but this little thing is a mic receiver, but you can customize the wallpaper. So you can actually have it branded on the receiver when you wear it, which is kind of cute. But it's a little touch device, and all the settings you control from that little screen. So cool little thing. I tried recording from it, but the it was too far away, I guess, and the audio didn't work in that room. Not as strong as a Sennheiser mic, but it is cute. I'm sure it will work absolutely fine in most situations, though. But that was cool. And I did grab a different Saramonic to test with later here, so we'll see. Does it support GIFs? Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it does. Oh, Blue Condor storage handles, right? Yes. That thing was cool. That was one that Joseph did the interview on. So it's a little like handle for like a camera cage, but then it's got a mount for you slide a little SSD into it, and then it has a USB port that you plug into the camera. Clever way to hide a drive in your rig. Back to what camera question. Keep in mind that even the best cameras need some basic light. I don't know what camera question you are talking about, but yes. Lighting is key. Cool. Okay. It was fun. It was a fun trip. Hopefully going to do it better next year. I have to go make a list of videos or a script now for the recap video. So hope that you and Photo Joseph and maybe H2R can test the new Epiphan Zoom Connect together. Yeah, I do want to give that a proper trial on this stream. I also got they want to help demo that too, and they even offered their remote producer to help run it. So we'll do that at some point on this show for sure. And yeah. Eric says, I saw that attendance at NAB was better than last year. Hopefully it will recover more next year too. It was way bigger than last year. It felt way bigger. Every company brought more people to the booths also. Last year, nobody from Yolobox could even come because things were still locked down from China, but now they had 3 people at the booth. And yeah, it was great. It was really a lot of excitement, a lot of good stuff. The little meetup that we hosted was fun. That was great to see everybody there. That was out by the food trucks in the parking lot, which I think that was a good spot to meet because it was right there. Didn't have to travel far, and nobody bought food from the food trucks, but or beer, but we just hung out at the tables there, and it was fine. So that was fun. It was a good crowd. I have a picture of everybody somewhere. Somewhere on my phone, I think. I would have been early in the list of photos. Oh, there it is. There we go. Yeah, good crew. Nice to see some faces behind all the names in the chat, as always. So that was fun. And even Frank came from Yellow Live. Food truck lines were long and it took forever. Yeah, fair. Cool. I think that's about it for NAB wrap up stream. So, and oh, we're well past 90 minutes anyway. Great. I would need to get to work on this video to do a recap video because I do want to post a video summarizing these things again and get that out hopefully very soon. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see you again this time next week. Let's see what's on the schedule for next week. I think it's a normal week. Next week is the last day in April, and I think everything is normal. Lovely. Great. We'll see you back here. I do have a couple more trips coming up, but I won't be traveling on Sunday again for a little while. And then next time I do, probably use the Yolobox. Or maybe I'll use Epiphan Connect and do my stream remotely that way. That'd be kind of fun. Interesting. Anyway, this has been fun. Let me know in the comments if you have any specific questions about any of the gear that we looked at today. I'm going to try to get a hold of some of it to test out and do some more deeper dive videos on. So if you do have any questions, I will try to get answers to them when I try them out. Otherwise, thank you all for joining, and thank you for the super chats. These are everybody sent in super chats over the last month. My sort of mini way to have a membership tier without having actual memberships set up, which I'll solve at some point. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all the questions. And I will see you all again next week. Bye.